Welcome to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Don Camber.
Hello, live from the OC Talk Radio studios at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Don Camber with another great guest impacting our community in a positive way. Today, I welcome Stand Up for Kids fundraising and marketing manager Brittany Avdee. The national nonprofit organization is dedicated to ending the cycle of youth homelessness in local communities, including Orange County. Thank you, Brittany, for being on Impact OC.
Thank you so much for having me.
Brittany, I understand since 1990, Stand Up for Kids has cared for homeless at-risk youth by transitioning them from crisis to connection. Please explain this.
Yeah, so Stand Up for Kids is a national organization. We've been around since 1990, and we have 18 chapters across the country. So each chapter is individual. We get to adjust to our community's needs, basically. So I'm from the Orange County chapter, and so I'm from the Orange County chapter. Sorry, and we serve youth ages 12 up to their 25th birthday. So our goal is to both offer preventative and crisis intervention programs. So on the preventative side, what I mean by that is we're working in the schools, and we're working with youth who are maybe living in like a one-bedroom apartment with 3 different families. They don't have access to school supplies or to food or to clothes. And we're in the schools doing mentoring and tutoring and providing them that. And then for our 18 to 24-year-olds, we're out on the streets trying to find them. And first we offer them their basic needs, and then we get them into emergency shelter. And then we're working with them for, sorry, I'm getting a little nervous. Usually I don't get nervous. But, and then we're trying to help them develop employment skills and get them ready to enter the workforce, and our end goal is to help them get stable in a stable living situation. So last year, 96% of the youth that we housed remained in a stable living situation for a year or more.
And you went through the program.
Yes, I did when I was 15 years old. I'm 28 now, and back when I went in and through the program, it was just a tiny little organization. The organization has grown, or at least the Orange County chapter has grown immensely. Back then, it was just me and a couple of other kids who would go to the Coffee Bean to meet with our mentors, and they would help us, with our job skills, get us into a motel or emergency shelter, provide us with clothing, and really the main aspect around it was mentoring. And my mentor was the executive director, so she helped me get off of the streets, get my GED. She's helped me get multiple jobs. She really, more than anything, she became kind of like a second mom to me. I do have a mom, but my mom was a single mom. We left my dad sorry, I get a little bit emotional talking about my story, but we left my dad when I was 5 years old, and he was a drug addict and he was abusive, and my mom was just trying to make ends meet by working 3 different jobs. And due to that, we were constantly moving. I was probably in like 12 different schools, and I ended up falling into kind of the wrong crowd. I was never in dance or surf or anything like that, and I ended up with kind of the bad kids. So eventually I found myself on the streets because of life choices that I made, and my mom didn't have the resources to help me whatsoever. And someone told me about Stand Up for Kids. So that's when I met Justine, like I said, at that Coffee Bean, and she started to mentor me, and that mentorship has lasted up until now. I still look up to her. She taught me how to be, a professional businesswoman. She actually taught me how to drive in her own car, took me to get my driver's license. And I think the main thing that I'm really trying to convey is that it's not just the resources that we're offering the youth, it's the long-term relationship. So a lot of different nonprofits, which all of these nonprofits are amazing in their own ways, but a lot of them, it's just like a resource. You're handing someone a phone number, telling them to call, and maybe you can get into housing. And of course, we offer those resources as well, but what really changed my life was that long-lasting relationship with a stable role model. And yeah, that's a little bit about my story.
So the people who are in the program, are they living on the streets?
Yeah, so there's two age demographics that we work with. The 18 to 24-year-olds, the young adults, those are the ones that are either on the streets, sleeping in a car, sleeping on a friend's couch. There's college students that are sleeping in their cars. And then we have our younger kids who are homeless by definition. So they're McKinney-Vento youth, and those are the doubled up and tripled up youth that I was talking about. And what I mean by that is living in a one-bedroom apartment with 3 other families. So by definition, they are homeless.
How does Stand Up for Kids able to help them, reach them, to help them?
So, since there's 2 age demographics, I'll tell you how we're able to reach each one. I'll start with the younger ones. For the younger ones, the 12 to 18-year-olds, we're in the schools. We have a contract with the Orange County Department of Ed. We're in the schools in Anaheim, Santa Ana, Garden Grove, and we get referrals from the school psychologists. And so that's really how we're able to reach the younger ones. And our goal with them is to prevent them from ending up on the streets. And of course, to get them to graduate high school and then move on to college. And we also have a colleges program where we help them with the whole process of applying for FAFSA and everything that goes with that. And then how we help the older ones who are already on the streets, and some of them, you know, on drugs or escaping abusive relationships. We either find them through street outreach, where we have volunteers actually go out onto the streets looking for them, or we get referrals from other agencies. And for them, first we meet their basic needs. So is there any health issues that we need to address? Do you have clothes? Do you have food? And then we're getting them into emergency housing, which could be a shelter, a motel, a sober living. It's super case by case, which is awesome that we're able to be so case by case, because some of our youth, you know, they come to us, they might have fallen into drug addiction, or some of them are totally normal college kids that don't need any help with substance abuse. So we're getting them into emergency shelters, and then we're connecting them with a mentor and a case manager and figuring out their goals. Do you either want to work, or do you want to go to college, or do you want to do both? Do you know how to write a resume? A lot of these kids have never even had a stable role model who have taught them these basic skills that mom or dad would teach, you know, a regular kid. And then lastly, we're getting them into stable housing, which would either be a room rental or an apartment, and on the road to self-sufficiency.
How are you funded?
How are we funded? So we have a lot of grants with the cities, and we have a lot of amazing individual donors, and we have a lot of private foundation grants. We also do 4 events per year. So we have our annual gala that helps a lot. This will be the 5th year of us doing our gala. That's September 30th. We have our annual car show that we do. Sorry, I might need a little water. Our annual car show, and then we also have these amazing companies that will put on events for us. So benefits for Stand Up for Kids. We're funded through all different kinds of ways, but mainly through the cities and our amazing donors and private foundations.
And I'll just ask you this: how can people get in touch with Stand Up for Kids? Give us the website, please.
The website is standupforkids.org/Orange County.
And what's going on in Orange County, is that similar to what's going on in the other chapters?
So like I said in the beginning, the really amazing thing is that each chapter is able to adjust to the community needs. So our programs are completely different than San Diego or Silicon Valley. In Orange County, we have a colleges program that I spoke about briefly. We have our JTS program, which that's our 18 to 24-year-olds journey to self-sufficiency. That's meeting their basic needs and then getting them into stable housing. We have our RMTS program, which is where we're actually in the schools and tutoring. And then we also have our We Deliver program. So any youth that is in any of our programs and is active, which by active I mean meeting with a mentor and doing the work that it takes to become self-sufficient, we deliver food to them from our food pantry. So we have amazing volunteers that come down to our office to the food pantry, and they grab a bag for their youth, and it'll have healthy groceries in it, cleaning supplies, hygiene items, and then they get to go and deliver it to the youth wherever they're residing.
How young are the youth involved in the program?
How young?
Yeah.
So the youngest that we take is 12.
And are they responsive to the help that Stand Up for Kids provides?
Some of them are responsive and some of them are very shy, honestly. We do get, it's some of them, this is the only life that they know. So like for like in Anaheim, when we're working with these youth that are living in a 1-bedroom apartment with 3 different families, that's the only life that they know, and they don't really realize fully that there is anything wrong. I don't want to say wrong with that, but that there's anything better than that, So sometimes they're a little bit shy about their situation, and at Stand Up for Kids, we're really big on just building long-lasting relationships, so we just continue showing up for them. A lot of them haven't had consistency, so sometimes it does take, like, I'll have mentors or volunteers who go down and want to talk with the youth, and they don't open up right away, but it's because you have to keep showing up, and then eventually they do open up.
What was it like for you at 15 to be part of this?
At 15 to be part of this, I don't think that I realized how bad my situation was at 15. And Justine, the executive director, never gave up on me. I think I kind of, at 15, I don't know how everyone else was at 15, but at 15, I kind of was just not taking everything fully seriously. And she never gave up on me. And I think it was definitely life-changing. And I don't know, for me to be a part of something like that at 15, looking back now, I can't believe the life skills that I probably wouldn't have learned, or I don't know, the relationships that I would have formed if I wouldn't have had Stand Up for Kids.
So how did it work for you? Did you meet with her at school, at home? How did it work? So
for me, so I was staying in a motel that Stand Up for Kids provided me, and Stand Up for Kids was tiny back then. Now we have our own office and outreach centers and everything like that. And I would take the bus to the Coffee Bean and go meet with her at the Coffee Bean, and we would figure out what my goals were for that week, whether it was to try to work on my resume, to get a job. She helped me get a job at Macy's. She got me an internship with a company. It was so long ago now, I forget the company's name. But she would make sure that I had food for that week, so my basic needs, like we talked about, and then really just like anything that was going on in my life. So it wasn't only job and goals and food and stuff, but also like emotionally, how are you? And I had some really deep conversations with Justine, and I think that's why I felt so connected with her. And even when I would kind of not be I would go through waves of taking things seriously and then not taking things seriously. It wasn't until 18 when I was really like, okay, what am I doing? But even when I would go through my waves of not taking things so seriously, and then I would reach back out to Justine, she was always there, So it was the consistency, I think, that really changed my life.
Did she have a conversation with your mom?
Yes, she's had many conversations with my mom, and my mom and Justine are still friends now. My mom's doing a lot better now. She owns her own business, and everything ended up working out for her. But yeah, back then, my mom had literally nothing, and she was trying to take care of me and my younger brother. And of course, I was not being the best teenager, so it was, I wasn't the best role model for my brother to be around. And yeah, Justine.
Did your brother become part of the program too?
No, he didn't. My brother actually did really good on his own. He watched a bunch of YouTube and graduated high school, and yeah, he's a special case.
What about the volunteers that choose to work with Stand Up for Kids? Explain them. What qualities are you looking for? Because it probably takes a very special person to be part of this.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So we take volunteers of all different sorts, whether they're working directly with the kids or on the back end of things. But when we're looking for a mentor, we're really looking for someone who is, one, consistent and can show up for the youth each week, and is patient and willing to, like I said before, the youth isn't always going to want to open up right away. There's a lot of trauma. So someone who's consistent and patient and calm and loving, and also isn't going to do the work for them. We want the youth to do the work themselves, but we want the volunteer to guide them through the process, if that makes sense.
What is the work that they have to do?
So depending on which age group we're talking about, but if we're talking about the older ones, creating a budget, filling out the resume. So maybe the mentor meets with the youth and they're given the task to write down all of your expenses that you might have for this month. And then we'll meet back next week and we'll create the budget. And then if they meet next week and none of the expenses were written down, then they need to have a conversation about why none of the expenses were written down. Because we're not just there to do the work for them. We want to teach them how to do this stuff on their own so that when they graduate the program, they know how to make a budget and they can actually be self-sufficient for years to come.
Is this open to anybody in Orange County or only in those particular areas that you mentioned?
No, absolutely. Anyone, and it's actually open to the whole country now. So our volunteer database has increased exponentially since COVID because all of our mentoring right now is virtual. So we have volunteer mentors that are in Indiana or anywhere. You could be anywhere and you can mentor one of our youth as long as you're willing to put in, the 1 to 2 hours a week to make it work with them.
Now, in order to be part of the program, are there certain requirements of the youth? I mean, if they do something wrong, will they be kicked out?
We really try to give our youth as many chances as possible. I mean, of course, there's certain things with violence or drugs, but even if so in Orange County, there is a huge epidemic with drugs right now, and we have seen a huge trend of I don't want to get too deep into this, but basically treatment centers who are not on the up and up, they'll fly kids out from different states and just to get them into treatment here and buy them insurance. And then, so then they're getting paid for the kid to be in the rehab center. The kid relapses and then they're out on the street and can't go home to the family, don't have the means to go home to the family, or the family doesn't want them back. And, anyways, so we do have some youth who struggle with drugs, and if they have a relapse, we'll work with them. We'll set them up with a therapist. We'll try to get them into another rehab center. We really try to give them, I'm a firm believer on not turning our back on our youth. And sometimes there are things where we need to remove them from, like if we're doing mentoring in person, we'll remove them from the group so that it doesn't affect the group as a whole, and we'll just do one-on-one mentoring with that youth. So if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do they all meet at some point? A lot of them meet together as a group?
When we were doing in person, yeah. So we had outreach. So right now they all meet on Zoom as a group. But before COVID, we were all meeting at our outreach center, and we would have dinner with the youth. We would do our highs and lows for the week, and then we would do a current event like an icebreaker, and then and that was just to kind of get discussions going and see different viewpoints. And then they break off into one-on-one sessions with their mentors.
So that's
with the older ones.
That's the older ones. Where are the outreach centers?
There's the outreach center was in Huntington, and then we had 2 in Anaheim. But we don't have them anymore because of COVID. So once things are finally okay and we know that we're able to resecure those outreach centers, then we will have them probably in those same cities. We also have an office in Costa Mesa, so the youth are always more than welcome to come to our office in Costa Mesa. Yeah, and then for the younger kids, we're meeting them in the schools.
What is Stand Up for Kids theory of change?
Stand Up for Kids theory of change. I think that the theory of change is just that we truly believe that all youth have the potential inside of them to make that change, and yeah. So
tell us some brief stories of other kids and what they've gone through and the successes.
Okay. I'll tell you about someone who, so like I said, I went through Stand Up for Kids, and then I worked for Stand Up for Kids for 4 years, and then I left, and then I came back. Anyways, when I worked for Stand Up for Kids a few years ago, I was doing a little bit of everything. I was doing volunteer management, mentoring, and stuff like that. And I had this one mentee who I was really, I was like, I don't know if she was really, really paranoid. She had grown up on the streets in Anaheim. Her mom was a crack addict and a prostitute, and so she got dragged around through all of that as a child. She was in and out of foster care, and then she aged out of the foster care system. And when you age out of the foster care system, they kind of just kick you to the curb with minimal resources. And she ended up finding us, and she was really, really rough around the edges, which I love the ones that are really rough around the edges. But she was very paranoid, and she just had really low self-esteem, didn't think that she could make it. And I worked with her for probably about 2 years, and today I still talk to her. I just got a call from her at 11 o'clock at night the other night for something, but anyways, I just got a call from her the other night. She's still working full-time. She has her own place. She's driving. She ended up finishing school, and yeah, I wish I could say her name on air, but just because I'm so incredibly proud of her and want to give her that, but she wouldn't like that. But yeah, so that was one of my mentees. And then another one who we met through, so we partner with some rehabs in Orange County so that we could get our youth scholarship beds, so that the ones that do have substance abuse can get the help that they need. So back then we had a youth his name was Blake, and he found us, and he had actually gone to prison when he was really young, and he got involved in with the really wrong crowd. But yeah, he ended up in prison, and he was in that rehab, and he started coming to the mentoring meetings. And when we took him, he was like really ashamed to reach out for help, I think. And it was really hard for him to ask. And so when we first took him grocery shopping, he started crying, and we were just getting him the essentials like rice, oatmeal, bread, all of that. And he started crying just because he was so grateful that he had groceries, and he didn't have a car. And so we helped him write his resume and get a job. He ended up getting a job at the Macaroni Grill or something. It was so far, and he didn't have a car. He would skateboard to work every single night, and this was probably like 10 miles skateboarding to work. Anyways, long story short, I'm still in touch with this one also, but he just moved to Idaho with his son and his wife. He has a car. He does tiling. He has, how many years sober does he have? He must have like 7 years sober or so now. And he's still like very involved in his sobriety, and yeah, it's just really amazing to be able to watch him go from that, skateboarding to work, having nothing, crying about groceries, to being a husband and a dad, and being able to move his family to Idaho so that they could have a better life, because we know Orange County is sky high.
Anyway, thank you, Stand Up for Kids fundraising and marketing manager Brittany Avdee, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.